I'm Tracy with MeatRx. I'm here with another great success story, and I have my friend Kyle here. Hi, Kyle.
Hi there.
Thank you for coming. Can you begin by telling me what was life like before you came to a meat-based diet? What were your health conditions like? What kinds of foods did you eat?
Oh, so before I was carnivore, I was about 225 pounds. I exercised a ton and I was eating anything that had protein on it. So, the Quest protein chips. You go down the one aisle in certain grocery stores and everything's protein, and they always have it highlighted. They never tell you anything else. It's just this protein real big. So, and usually that's packed with a ton of other stuff. So I just, grab as much of that as I could. I'd have a protein bar in the lunchbox. I'd have a big salad. I'd have, all these processed stuff and tons of nuts. And, usually did have some meat or something in there as well. But, most of it was just processed stuff and a big salad, with some vegetable oil and dressing. So I'd, scarf that down for lunch in the morning. Towards the end of, I guess, that kind of way of eating, I was having, lots of eggs and bacon, and then I'd have this protein shake, and then I'd have a big lunch. And then, in the afternoon, I'd snack on some jerky, and I'd go home and I'd eat a steak or maybe make some chicken or something like that. And, I was just always bloated, and no one wanted to be around me because, I was like, man, his stall right there, all the other mechanics near me are like, dude, you need to stay outside more often. You smell terrible. So with eating all that, I wasn't satiated, but, I just kept calories up, kept eating and eating and eating and trying to make gains, the typical bro stuff. And I never quite got to the point where I wanted to get to. And I still had problems with what I would say is mental health, but I can't quite quantify that because I was never formally diagnosed. So I saw Jordan Peterson on Joe Rogan, which is probably where a lot of it had all started. And I remember hearing him talk about, an all meat diet. I'm like, okay, well, I love steak, I love burgers, and, whatever. So I saw that. And I thought, oh, well, that's interesting. All right, well, I'm going to go drink my protein shake and go, work out. And one weekend, I decided, all right, well, you know what? I'm just going to eat meat this weekend. Just, eggs, bacon, sausage, steak. I did it for 2 days, and I woke up both days. I'm like, wow, I feel really, really good. And I wasn't bloated at all, which was like, oh, well, what is this? I wasn't used to not being bloated. I was 23 and I had a big old beer belly. I'd be folding clothes on my bed and I'd look to the right and I had this big gut. I'm like, oh, well, maybe that's just normal. It's just part of aging, whatever. So I went back to work after doing, 2 or 3 days, and I had my big container full salad and Italian dressing and bacon bits, and probably some chicken or something like that. I ate it, and then I walked right out of the lunchroom like, wow, I feel terrible. I really have to go to the bathroom, and I just don't feel good. So I went to the bathroom, and I gave it some thought, and I'm like, maybe I should give this a sincere try. So the first about month, and I've been carnivore for 15 months now, it was kind of like what most people say, where you do have some digestive issues, you have low energy, and, you're kind of just finding your footing because, I was so used to pounding out carbs, sugar, fat, everything all together, as long as I had protein, we were good. So my brother was a little bit more nutrition privy at the time, and he said, hey, well, why don't you start trying to just skip a meal? Because at first I was like, oh, well, I got to keep my metabolism going. I have to keep it going. I have to eat so many times a day. I have to have 3 meals a day. He said, well, why don't you just try skipping breakfast for a little bit? And I kept hearing from people to include electrolytes as well. They said that helped with transition symptoms. So I woke up and I skipped breakfast, and it felt weird because I was so used to having, it was like 4 or 5 eggs, some bacon, and then going to work, and then, eating a big old lunch with, some piece of cheap steak or something like that. and it was like a light switch. I had the electrolytes and I was fasting, and I'm like, this is it. This is the ticket. This is what I need to do. So I was still eating turkey bacon and some not necessarily bad stuff, but not quite ideal. So, I just kind of had to refine my process. And then eventually I got to the point where I kind of am now, where I was like, okay, pound of ground beef, a little bit of bacon. And then when I get home, it's like a ribeye, 2 ribeyes, maybe some eggs, whatever red meat I can get my hands on. And I've even experimented now where I'm doing a little bit of an earlier time restricted feeding window where I'll have a breakfast and like an early lunch. And that seems to actually be working very, very well. I normally wasn't hungry in the mornings, but now that I've kind of flipped it around, I actually find that I'm more satiated throughout the day, eating a earlier breakfast and a earlier lunch.
Cool. So I was wondering, how do you exercise and what do you do? Like before, did you exercise, and now do you exercise?
So I have exercised continuously for about 8 years now. So I started exercising when I was like 13 years old, and then I stopped. And then I was 17 years old and I wanted to lose some weight. So I was taking all these fat burner pills and all the protein powders, listen to all the bros, white rice and chicken. So I did that for a little bit, and I was, doing lots of hypertrophy work. So a lot of, I don't want to say I necessarily did a bro split because I was kind of weird with the way I worked out. So I would do like biceps and triceps, traps and lats, legs and abs, and then chest and shoulders. So I'd work out on like 4 days a week. It was right after work. So around like 6 o'clock at night, I would leave my job and I'd go work out. And then, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I would usually take a break. So now it's actually kind of funny because I'm way leaner now, but I actually work out way, way, way more. And my work actually has a step challenge now. So it's where people are going to think I'm absolutely insane. I wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, I get a shower, and then I come upstairs, I let my dogs out, and then, feed them. I start cooking my breakfast, which my breakfast and my lunch, actually. So I cook a pound of ground beef with usually like 4 or 5 pieces of Peterson's bacon that I get from Butcher Box. And then usually cook like a ribeye, 6 eggs, some grass-fed hot dogs, and I usually wolf down, the steak, eggs, and grass-fed hot dogs, or maybe even like some liver or something like that in the morning. And then, around like 11:30, that's usually around 5. So let me get this all straight here. Around like 5:15, I finish all my breakfast, and then I take my dogs usually for like a mile, maybe 2-mile walk. And then by then it's about 6 o'clock. So I do drink coffee still. And I've actually been using collagen powder in the coffee. And I can't say that I really feel like a big difference, but I do like the flavor, and it is additional protein and a little bit more additional calories. So I usually get that prepared after, and then I head on into work. And then around 11:30, 11:45, I usually have my lunch, which, like I said earlier, a pound of ground beef and some bacon. And then I'll either wait to eat that, or as soon as I'm done eating, I just start walking around my work campus. And if I don't eat right then I normally go for a run. And I try to do this at least 2 days a week. I usually do a 5K, so that's 3.2 miles. Or I'll run 4 miles for lunch and then come back, wolf down my lunch, and just get back to work. And I work 10 hours a day as a auto mechanic. So I'm still kind of doing the same workout routine, but now I also go running on the weekends as well. So, usually on Saturday, Sunday, I'll try and get in anywhere from about 5 to 10 miles per day. And actually, I am the number one stepper in my entire company, about 1,400 people. So ever since I've gone Carnivore, my activity levels have gone way, way, way up, and I feel fantastic doing all of it.
That's great. So you're transitioning. You said you were tired. Is that the only kind of symptom you had that, in that first couple of weeks? Did anything else go on that you said, was there a keto flu or any kind of thing like that?
I would say probably like the keto flu, the tired, the brain fog, the fatigue, and I just didn't feel quite as strong as I normally did. Mm-hmm. So, I'm lifting up these 80-pound wheels to put on trucks and stuff like that, and I'm like, man, I just can't move like I was. But as I mentioned earlier, my brother had mentioned, well, why don't you try, doing a time restricted feeding kind of ordeal? And that was the light switch for me. And like I said, as well, adding electrolytes. As soon as I started doing that, I'm like, okay, well, I feel fantastic. And then from there, I just kept doing like a 12 to 8 kind of time restricted feeding window. And it was really good. And then from there, I started experimenting. Okay, well, why don't I start trying to incorporate fasting, more extended fasting? My brother kind of threw fasting like, I don't know. So I went on vacation and I kind of strayed a little bit off the path. Then I came back. I'm like, all right, well, I'm just going to do a 48-hour fast. I've never done it before, but I'm just going to give it a shot. I did it, and I'm like, wow, I feel fantastic. So, went back, broke the fast, and then from there on, I tried to do like a 3-day every month. Actually, this past month, early September, I did a 5-day fast. I think the total was 133 hours, and I actually exercised 11 hours, and I ran, I think it was 12 miles with 5 lifting sessions on a 5-day fast. I lost 17 pounds.
17?
Mm-hmm. I gained a little bit because we were in Ocean City the week before, but it all came right back off. Actually, it was less than when I weighed less coming back after the 5-day fast than I did when I left for vacation.
Wow. So why do you do fasting? Do you do fasting for the healing benefits or for weight loss mostly?
I would say it's difficult for one because, as the American culture kind of is, we are so, we just consume all the time. We're always eating. And, if you see in interviews with Ted Naiman, he often says, that the average American is eating every 2 hours. So to kind of remove yourself from that, in my mind, is, kind of, it's a exercise in discipline, and I'm all about that. It's very spiritual for me because like I said, you're separating yourself from that. I could be way more productive. I feel fantastic. People think, oh man, I need to eat all the time. Well, in my experience, when I fast, it's just, the first day or two, it's like, all right, well, I could go for something to eat, but, I don't need to. And then after that, it's like, I'm not even thinking about it anymore. It's not a factor, just give me something to do. I want to go run. I want to go work out. I want to play with my dogs, just let me keep on it. It really frees up a little bit of time for me. And I try to keep my schedule pretty booked up. But that frees up, maybe an hour or so every day between eating and cooking and everything. And I feel euphoric sometimes, to be completely honest.
Cool. So are you a member of MeatRx?
Unfortunately, no, not right now. But I am definitely thinking of joining soon.
Okay. I was wondering, have you influenced any other people to do carnivore?
So I tried to get my girlfriend into it, and she wasn't quite as into it as me. If you give me a challenge, I'm all for it. We're going. If you tell me I can't do it, then I just did it 3 times. That's just the way I am. So she tried it for about a week, but she didn't quite have all her ducks in a row. We weren't eating the best food, and she wasn't eating red meat back then. Now she eats lots of red meat. So she said, oh, well, that doesn't work for me. I'm like, oh, well, you didn't give it a fair shake. I have a coworker now, one of my parts guys, he's actually going to like a real heavy meat keto. And his doctors kept telling him, oh, well, you shouldn't have salt because your blood pressure, you have high blood pressure. And anybody who's heard the work of Alex, whatever his name is, DeNicola Antonio, I can't remember his first name. I'm surprised I can remember his last name, but the salt fix. Salt's incredibly important. And, for me personally, especially with, all the exercise that I do and all the running and everything, salt's very, very crucial. If I don't get that little bit of electrolytes before I go on a run, it's a night and day difference. I can't perform at the same capacity that I can. So he's starting it. I actually think this week he actually just got his first shipment from ButcherBox the other day. So I'm very excited for him, and he does have some weight to lose. He's, I think, early 30s. So he's catching it relatively early, and, I'm really happy for him. He's leaned on me a lot, and I'm totally cool with that. The one guy that works beside me, he's kind of doing like a 1 meal a day kind of thing, and he's started to take out a lot of the carbs, pulling the bread and trying not to eat a lot of the rice and not eating all the beer and chicken wings and stuff like that. And he's lost a lot of weight as well. And there's all the Facebook groups and everything like that. I post up, how my carnivore journey has been, which has been absolutely fantastic. Whenever I see people asking questions, oh, well, how should I start? You should just start. You should just do it. If you think this is going to work for you, then you got to give it an honest attempt. And, I tell people about my experience and, my downfalls, where I didn't go wrong and where I experimented and failed and where I got things right. And I think I have helped some people. And I hope, there have been plenty of people, even in the MeatRx community and in the World Carnivore Tribe, my zero carb life, plenty of people who have helped me along the way that made all the difference and, really helped me, find my own way.
Yeah. So can you tell me, how did life change after you have been carnivore for 15 months? I mean, what all kind of things did you notice in your body that changed when you moved your diet over to meat-based?
So prior to being carnivore, I had a rough childhood, not, the worst, but, I dealt with a lot of people in my family having cancer and, bad backs and things that people consider hereditary. Obviously I don't think we'll ever know how much of that is true or not, but I saw those health issues and I'm like, how do I not get there? I had what I thought was depression, and then when I went over to a meat-based diet, it was strange because I was so used to, not anything that I would necessarily act on, but, suicidal thoughts and things like that. When I switch over to a meat-based diet, it's gone. I feel happy most of the time, which, I wish I could relay that to people. I wish people could feel my mental state. And, obviously when things come up, obviously I react accordingly, but, people see me as a relatively optimistic person, but now I'm always that way. And, the suicidal thoughts and, the brain fog and things like that. And even like the small aches and pains from just being an automotive mechanic are gone, which, I thought, well, it's part of the job. You're contorting yourself all these different ways trying to work on a vehicle. You're going to be sore. Well, I don't know how much I believe that anymore. I see the old guys I work with, I watch what they eat, and they're not eating that well. And they tell me I'm going to die, but, I don't see them running 4 miles for lunch or, not complaining about being in pain. And a lot of them guys go for surgery and things like that. And, it's been shown clearly that red meat and animal-based products aren't inflammatory. So, it kind of makes you wonder, are these people kind of a product of their own design and just poor information? It's not necessarily their fault. We're just told to eat all the vegetable oils. We're told to eat white bread. All that stuff's got to be good for you. Well, I think, all of us in this community, I think we question that. And I think our questioning has led us to the answer that, well, maybe it's not that good for us. And when we eliminate all that stuff, and we get back to what seems to be a more ancestral approach to eating and food, we feel a lot better. We look a lot better. We lose weight. We get a more desirable body composition. And I've certainly seen and felt all those things. I was 225 pounds and now I'm about 189, relatively lean. I exercise more often. My mental state is much, much better. And I don't ever foresee myself giving up this kind of diet. I really don't, because of how I feel, how I can perform. And I really hope that, in my lifetime and in my future family, that we can reverse these kind of ideas of, this is hereditary, you're just going to get cancer. You're going to fight being a bigger guy for the rest of your life. Well, like I said, I hope I can defy that status quo, if you will.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful. And you eat the most nutrient dense food and that's meat. And so if someone was starting out on carnivore, do you have like a couple of tips that you would give them, the best tips that you have being a carnivore for 15 months?
My personal advice would be, do not worry about macronutrients. Just get used to eating the food. And this seems to be the main message of a lot of the long-term carnivores. You know, your Charles Washington, Kelly Hogan, ShawnBaker. They all recommend just get used to eating the food. You know, eat until you're full, and then don't sit there and snack throughout the day. Just stuff your face with a fatty ribeye with, some butter. Make sure you get some salt in there, some good quality salt, and just don't eat again until you're hungry. When you're hungry, same deal. At the start, just worry about adapting to this style of eating and enjoying it. That is, I think, probably the biggest tip that I could give anybody. And a lot of people, aren't used to sitting down and eating, perhaps 1,000, 2,000, maybe even 3,000 calories in sitting. Now, for me, if I do a 24-hour fast, like I'm probably going to be doing a 36-hour fast here because my girlfriend and I are going to Fogger to Chow tomorrow night. I'm going to probably eat, well over 5,000 calories in steak because they just keep loading it, and I'll just keep eating and eating and eating. So I honestly do think you just need to enjoy the food and learn to, just eat to satiety and understand what your body's telling you. After that, then you can maybe start, trying to track this, mess with your fat to protein ratios and things like that if you really want to. And I really don't think you have to get to a reasonable and even desirable body composition. It certainly worked out for me that way. I kind of track now just to kind of see where I'm at and see what I have to work with. But like I said, I don't think you really have to. And if you don't want to, then don't. Just starting out, enjoy the food.
Yeah, that sounds great. Enjoy the food. I like that. So Kyle, I appreciate you coming and sharing your story with everyone, and I know it'll help many people. You're glowing and you're so energetic and so positive, and I'm sure everyone can see that when they watch this video or hear this video on a podcast. It's really, really electrifying to hear you, and I'm so excited to know that you got carnivore at a young age. Because, as you get older, if you're eating garbage, it's really hard on your body. So it's really cool that you caught it so early and the right food to eat.
Thank you. Yeah, like I said before, my family has a history of illnesses, and I think if there's anything that we can do, especially everybody all together, to stop that, from running its course, then I think we should definitely pursue that. And we should all, want better for ourselves, our children, and our parents, and, beyond.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Kyle. Have a good day.
Thank you. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.